It happened on Christmas Eve, in the one place no one expects a miracle to begin, a crowded toy store 5 minutes before closing. Stay with me until the very end of this story, because what happened between these two strangers will completely change the way you see kindness, power, and what really matters on Christmas. And if this story touches you even a little, remember to like the video and subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be shared. The store was chaos, shelves half empty, children crying, parents pacing like time was hunting them. Red and green lights blinked overhead, but there was nothing peaceful about the scene. At the center of it all sat one last toy, a limited edition space robot that had sold out everywhere weeks ago. The kind of toy kids talked about at school, the kind parents felt guilty not being able to afford or find. Two hands reached for it at the same time. One belonged to Ethan Blackwell, a billionaire CEO whose name appeared regularly in business magazines. His tailored coat alone cost more than most people's rent. He hadn't planned to be there himself, assistants usually handled these things. But his daughter, Lily, had looked at him that morning with hopeful eyes and said, "Daddy, Santa might forget me this year." And for the first time in years, a boardroom victory didn't feel as important as a 7-year-old's smile. The other hand belonged to Daniel Reyes, a single father with tired eyes and calloused fingers. He worked double shifts at a warehouse and still barely made it. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier, and since then, Christmas had been quieter, heavier. His 6-year-old daughter, Sophia, believed in magic with her whole heart. She had whispered through chapped lips the night before, "Daddy, I don't need many presents, just the robot." Daniel had promised he'd try, even though he knew, try, often wasn't enough. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan tightened his grip and said calmly, "I was here first." Daniel shook his head. "No, sir, I reached it first." The cashier froze, unsure what to do. Around them, people watched. Some recognized Ethan immediately. Whispers spread. The balance of power in the room was obvious. Ethan felt the familiar instinct to win. He had spent his life doing exactly that. Negotiating, outlasting, outbidding. He pulled out his black card and placed it on the counter. "I'll pay whatever it costs." Daniel's face flushed. Not with anger, but with humiliation. He reached into his pocket and pulled out wrinkled bills. "I don't have much," he said quietly, "but my daughter, she's had a rough year." Something flickered across Ethan's face, but it disappeared just as fast. "Everyone has a story," he replied. "This is mine." The cashier hesitated, then slid the toy toward Ethan. Daniel didn't argue. He just nodded slowly, as if accepting something much bigger than a loss at a toy store. Daniel left without another word. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and unforgiving. He sat in his car for a long moment, hands on the steering wheel, wondering how he would explain this to Sophia without breaking her heart. Inside the store, Ethan held the box but felt no triumph. Instead, a strange heaviness settled in his chest. That night, as Lily opened her gifts, she smiled politely. When she reached the robot, she paused. "Daddy," she said, "why does it feel like someone else should have this?" Ethan laughed awkwardly, but the question followed him long after Lily went to bed. He poured himself a drink, but it didn't help. He kept seeing Daniel's eyes, not angry, not bitter, just tired. Unable to sleep, Ethan did something he hadn't done in years. He went back out. He returned to the toy store, now dark and empty, then drove through the neighborhood he had seen Daniel head toward. He didn't know why. Call it guilt, call it curiosity, call it something finally waking up inside him. He found Daniel's apartment building, old, chipped paint, lights flickering in the hallway. Ethan knocked, feeling ridiculous and nervous for the first time in decades. Daniel opened the door, confused. Before he could speak, Ethan held out the toy. "I was wrong," Ethan said. "And I don't want my daughter to learn that winning matters more than people." Daniel stared, stunned. Sophia peeked from behind the doorframe, eyes widening at the sight of the robot. "Is that?" she whispered. Ethan knelt and handed it to her. "Merry Christmas." Sophia hugged the toy, then hugged Ethan without hesitation. In that moment, something cracked wide open inside him. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "You didn't have to do this," he said. Ethan nodded. "I know. That's why I needed to." They stood there for a moment, 3 strangers bound by something bigger than money. Ethan left quietly, but lighter than he had felt in years. Back home, Lily was awake, waiting. He sat beside her and told her the truth. She listened, then smiled. "I'm proud of you, Daddy," she said, and that meant more to him than any deal he had ever closed. Christmas morning arrived, and across the city, two children woke up believing in magic, not because of a toy, but because adults had chosen kindness. Daniel learned that hope sometimes shows up at your door when you least expect it. Ethan learned that generosity isn't about giving what you can spare, but giving what you value. So if this story reminded you of the power of compassion, of choosing humanity over ego, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter, especially in a world that often forgets them. And remember, sometimes the greatest gift you can give isn't something you buy, but a choice you make.